There we go. And we are now live. And this time, Alex isn't going to start with a swear word. Welcome to the Chargeheads YEV podcast, the balanced podcast talking about electric vehicles and, to coin a phrase, many other things. So we thought, after there's been quite a few interesting videos out there, Watson, around charging, we thought it'd probably be better to talk about, the lies, the porcupines, and everything in between when we're talking about charging. So this podcast might be for, generally speaking, we get a lot of people that know about electric cars on this channel, but I'm hoping that we're going to bring some fresh faces and comments from people that might not have joined the podcast before. Again, we're live on YouTube and X and on Spotify later on. But joining me today, my name's Tim Aylen. It's Kevin and Alex in the same room today. How you doing, chaps?
Good, thanks. Sure.
Yeah, good too.
Good stuff. How's the weather in Wales today?
Oh, sunny.
Yeah, really
today.
sunny.
Nice, super duper. Right, yeah. So we're gonna get through the wheat and the chaff, as I think Alex likes to say, around the charging. So I thought where we could start, and I'm sure we'll be talking about everything electric at the end of the podcast, and also about our last podcast about MG versus Tesla, because I've got a bit of a bombshell to drop, which I've talked to the guys about, and they think I might well be not being balanced here, but I believe I am.
It's literally only going to be a bombshell for anyone who hasn't watched any previous episodes, I think.
Through that. So yeah, in terms of the charging truth, I thought we would start with cost. Now, I think there's quite a lot of I hate doing myth busting, but I think there's a lot of kind of there's no real clarity when it comes to cost for charging, chaps. So I think it goes from kind of one extreme to the next, doesn't it? So for a lot of people that don't know what a kilowatt hour is, a battery in an electric car will have X number of kilowatt hours, and that's the power to run the electric motors to propel you forward. So generally speaking, electric car will have anything from 30 to 110 kilowatt hours. Do you think that's fair, chaps?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the one I'm in at the moment, it's got 110 kilowatt hours.
Big boy. What are you driving at the moment, Kev?
I'm in the Ioniq 9.
She's a big old girl.
I saw a picture of that. Yeah, check out Kevin's LinkedIn. He's got lots of great videos on his car reviews. So check out Kevin Booker there. I don't like the look of it compared to the hybrid one, but let's focus on charging. Let's just try not to be red herringed with certain squirrels. So yeah, cost. So I think maybe if we start with what we pay at home. So I pay an overnight rate. So when you're charging at home, you have an AC wall box, which is essentially a charger at home, which can be anything from 500 to 1,200 quid for a charger, chaps?
Yeah, right? Lowest common denominator is probably about 500 quid for a cheap, really basic one. And then as they get slightly smarter, I mean, and that's actually one thing we should bring up is people keep thinking of the wall box as a charger, and really it's just a fancy plug, because when we're talking AC charging, the charger is on board in the car. And all you're doing is that's the one thing that maybe we should clear out at the beginning is when you have a home charger, all it is really is a fancy plug. Because
we will come on to that, because I have got that down, which explaining the speed of AC charging, which is really, really important. So yeah, absolutely. So Kevin's just kind of hit the nail on the head there. A wallbox charger is essentially a fancy plug, which in most cases are smart. So you've got an app, generally speaking, to log onto it, to turn it off, to turn it on at certain times, to benefit from off-peak rate. So what do we mean by on-peak and off-peak? So on-peak, generally speaking, is a more expensive rate, and off-peak is, generally speaking, between 12 and 6, or certain periods of time where electricity prices are low. So you can benefit from charging your vehicle a lot cheaper. So charging off peak, I mean, I charge off peak between 12 and 7 with Eon Drive, and that's 6.7 pence per kilowatt hour. So while I'm working out how much it would cost to fill up from zero my electric car, Kev, Alex, what do you get charged for your electric rate?
I'm on Octopus Go, which is 9.5 pence. So fortunately, because I've got a car that's really easy to work out at the moment, because we'll just assume it's 100 kilowatt hours for maths, that's roughly would be £9.50 to charge the Ioniq 9 from empty to full if you did it just off peak.
Yeah, there we go. Alex?
I'm going to chip in and say one thing that's worth remembering with wall boxes now is that since 2022, they're all smart. So if you've got anything that's been installed since 2022, it has to include data connection, and you have to have an interface for presetting the times, which is a really important part of kind of saving money, because obviously if you've got an off-peak tariff, which is the right way to do it, you can then preset it. If your car can't do it, and some cars can't, although most can have some sort of deferred charging time, it will automatically, you will have settings that you can change to automatically do it. I do this entirely the wrong way. So we have a 2012 Polar wall box, one of the oval ones, the really early ones, acquired with a 100% grant way back in 2012 when I was driving around in a Vauxhall Ampera. I said the V word. It's and it's a completely dumb charger. It does have a SIM in it. The SIM doesn't work anymore, but all that you could really do is download how much energy you were using from it. It's a 16 amp one, not a 32 amp.
Which basically means that it will only charge at what kilowatts per hour?
6 kilowatts. And we are also on a flat rate energy tariff. All of this is stuff I'm going to solve when we move into our new house, but haven't got around to yet. So we pay the full off-gem rate of about 27p per kilowatt hour, which is about as expensive as you can possibly pay home charging wise, which means on the Rifter, which is 45 kilowatts, that would be... Oh gosh, I can't work this out in my head.
Well, I've already worked mine out. So I and this is really important. So this is where the lies come in, I think, quite a lot of the time. So Fox, nice to have you on the channel. What's your comment? So, hi, great video. How do you prepare the battery before the rapid charge? I have a Tesla Model 3. We'll come to the DC charging very soon, Fox. Heating up your battery, but I'll go into more detail in a second. So the lies around AC charging, or the misconception, is, oh yeah, I charge cheap rate. It'll only cost me. So in my case, it'd be like about £5 if my battery didn't have any degradation. Bear in mind, I've got two Teslas with some pretty serious battery degradation because they've done a serious amount of miles, and one of them's quite old. But can I actually charge my car from 0 to full in 7 hours in my off-peak period? No, I can't. So I can get 7 hours, 7 times 7, 49. So it's actually not going to charge it fully. Now, obviously, you're not, generally speaking, going to have a battery which is completely empty, not only because it's bad for the battery, because generally speaking, you probably won't get to that amount. So generally speaking, I'll always top it up within that kind of period, not only from, say, like 10, 20%, but up to 80% to save the battery. And this gets onto battery, really, because you've got your NMC battery and your LFP battery. There are other batteries coming like sodium, but we'll leave that to the side for the moment. Let's just focus on NMC and LFP. So NMC batteries, the ones with the cobalt in them, generally speaking, they're really good from a power point of view, good for performance electric vehicles. However, they're not very, it's not really good to have them anywhere above sort of 80% for any long period of time. So generally speaking, anyone with an NMC battery will charge up to 80%. So the misconception here is the fact that actually, are you charging the battery full for that amount, or is it actually 7 hours up to 49 kilowatts? For example, Kevin mentioned about 100 kilowatt hour battery, but then you've got to think about the fixed rate after that. So it's a common misconception that actually, how cheap is your charging? Is it because you're keeping within the off-peak rate and you're not fully charging the vehicle, depending on the battery size, or are you using some of your peak energy? So mine's 25p. Alex had just mentioned 27p. Guys, do you think I'm right in saying that I think a lot of maybe evangelists are probably saying, oh no, I only charge £4 full battery. I've probably done it in the past, to be fair. Do you think there's a bit of that out there these days?
Yeah, I think there is, because I've just done the maths on Alex's 16 amp charger. If you were to have the Ioniq 9, so to fully charge the Ioniq 9, this is assuming no charging losses.
This is 3 kilowatts per hour AC charging, people. Yeah,
AC charging. It would take it 30 hours from empty to go to full.
Right, yeah.
Which, even if you think at home on my 7, so with my 7 kilowatt charger, so double, that's still 15 hours. So you're not getting that off peak. in an off-peak session.
This is one of the reasons why we've never bothered to go for an off-peak tariff. It's just not worth. There's a lot of little topping up sessions that you'd need to do to kind of make the most of it, and we have so much other stuff with the kids in the house. It's not going to work, because it's kind of the big thing that you would use it for is to sort of shift that over into that period and just basically kind of get a rough idea. I mean, we haven't found ours too much of a struggle. I mean, neither the Rifter nor the Mocha that I'm driving at the moment have got a massive battery. They're both one's 45, one's 51, I think, kilowatts usable. You can usually get most. If you get a bit low, you can usually get most of it back overnight. It's only if you were literally doing 2 different motorway journeys on separate days that you might need to kind of top it up with a rapid charger and then plug it in at home.
And this is the thing with electric cars, right? People don't go into that level of detail. So, whether it's someone trying to badmouth electric cars or someone that's trying to be evangelist and going, oh, yeah, electric cars are this cheap. It's not as simple as that. And this is the thing with electric cars, that there is so much more to it. And this is what I hope we can provide people with, is go into that level of detail so people actually know the truth out there from a cost and also speed and potential time for charging. So we were talking about speed of, Kevin mentioned it actually right at the beginning. The charger, the AC charger, isn't on the wall box, the glorified plug, as we called it earlier. The AC charger is actually on board. It's on the vehicle. And with certain electric cars, some have a 7 kilowatt onboard charger, some have 11 kilowatt, and very, very few have a 22 kilowatt charger. And I've definitely seen this in the fleet market a lot of the time, where charging companies have put in, you can charge at 22 kilowatts per hour on these AC chargers, but 9 times out of 10, if not 99 times out of 100, the vehicle isn't actually capable of charging 22 kilowatts. It can only charge it up to 11 kilowatts. Like I said, there's probably a handful. I think we've worked it out before. I think it was about 5. Porsche Taycan, if it's got the option, and Audis with the option, certain Teslas with the option, Renault Zoe, believe it or not. And I think
Mercedes B-Class electric drive for all of the ones of those that they sold. I think that's where it topped out there, wasn't it?
With no DC charging on the B-Class.
It topped out, I think, at 22 kilowatt AC.
And I think the thing to bring up as well about AC charging is, if you've got a normal home supply, generally 7 is the most you'll get, because to go to 11 or 22, you need 3-phase. Which newer housing estates are starting to have 3-phase, mainly because of there's additional things like heat pumps and stuff where it's more efficient to do 415 volts. But generally, if you're in a home that's been built up until now, you're not going to have 3-phase mains, which means you're limited to the 7.4 kilowatts. I mean, and the important thing to say that is this is why we think it's important that manufacturers start thinking about efficiency, not just bigger batteries. Because you're thinking 15 hours is not a great time to charge a battery in.
Well, I'll get onto the Tesla and efficiency later, Kevin. I'm sure you'll be happy to hear me talk about Teslas again. But absolutely. And not only the actual AC charger itself, the onboard charger, and plus a lot of people think, I'll buy a used electric car or a new one on lease and think, I'll just charge it off a 3-pin plug. Something to be really aware of is not only that I'm sure some people have seen pictures of a 3-pin plug socket that's been burnt out, because you've got to be really, really careful that from a safety and fire point of view, that there's a lot of energy going through that 3-pin plug. So I would always advise anybody to make sure they get a wall box charger, because not only is it's a lot safer, you've got the smart functions that Alex was talking about earlier, but also for the fact that the speed. So if you have got an off-peak electricity tariff, you can take full advantage of getting as much power in there as possible into your vehicle during that cheap rate. So I think,
the other factor as well is, even if you're not interested in any of that sort of stuff, including the safety side of it, the convenience of just being able to just plug in where you park, as opposed to trailing cables through windows or having them under little kind of waterproof. I mean, you're not supposed to have external sockets sold as EV charging points anyway, but the convenience of just being able to just have this weatherproof outdoor socket that you just plug it into and just let it go.
And the other thing with going back to the 3-pin plugs, I've just done the maths for the Ioniq 9 on a 3-pin plug. So the 2.4 kilowatts off that would take 45 hours. And you think, just to put in perspective, a portable charger pulls a similar rate to a kettle. So that would be like you running your kettle in a 3-pin socket for 45 hours. And 3-pin sockets aren't designed for that load for that amount of time.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. No wonder they get toasty. Also, something that we did highlight on a previous episode is the fact that there's actually quite a lot of heat loss by using a 3-pin plug rather than an AC wall box. Because if people didn't know, there is actually loss of electricity depending on the type of charger between where the electricity is generated, where it comes out to get to your vehicle. So there's normally a bit of heat loss. So I remember seeing some stats around if you're using a three-pin plug, obviously there's the safety element and the speed and cost, but also the amount of loss there as well. There's a couple of comments in here, so let's jump into these. Commuter branch line, how you doing, bud? Renault Zoe and specifically specified Tesla Model S's 22 kilowatt onboard chargers, that's OBC, are very useful.
On the Zoe, it's quite clever because the onboard chargers on Zoes are very different to any other car. Because the Zoe has quite a unique motor design where it actually goes through the motor coils, which is saved a lot of weight. So effectively on a Zoe, that's why you hear the little high-pitched whine, is it thinks it's regenning. So to save the weight, they go through the motors. So effectively, it's going through the regen circuit. It's very clever design.
It is a great system and very clever. However, I have heard that it does kind of wear out the motors quicker.
And
that's what I've heard.
A lot of noise.
Yeah, some people with induction hobs, it used to resonate with their induction hob even if it was off. So they'd have a screeching induction hob. So you had to get a filter to stop it making your induction hob in your home whine.
Yeah. Well, like Commuter Branch Live said, it's very useful. I mean, if you can find a cheap, like, I don't know, 30, 35 pence per kilowatt hour public charger, which is 22 kilowatt AC, because generally speaking, the DC chargers tend to be more expensive. Anything from, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but a lot more expensive. So there is a kind of a bit of a trick there to benefit from that. Timothy Shanks. Hi, Timothy. First comment from yourself, I think. Thanks for dropping in. Just plug Tesla into 32 amp commando socket. Very safe, very cheap, and just over 7 kilowatt. Don't listen to us about bespoke chargers. Car doesn't seem need them. It has everything on it.
I have a device called a juice booster at home for that. It's got interchangeable ends. It's a cool device, but that device then has got all the smart stuff in it that monitors for temperature and all the other stuff that a wall box would normally do, and ensures it trips out and doesn't burn out sockets and so on.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that the commando socket doesn't have, is it doesn't have thermal management, so it doesn't have temperature sensors. So it may work perfectly well, but to bear in mind it doesn't have a thermal sensor like a wall box would have.
But it is absolutely true that yes, you can get an external socket and a portable unit that you could then use everywhere. So if you travel a lot, you could take it, change the end, and have a socket for different kinds of commando sockets, or for 2-pin sockets if you're driving across Europe. And all the rest of it. The
juice booster even has the connector for the red commando socket, which is 3-phase.
Yeah.
Yep. So funnily enough, I was at a curry night with Right Charge and bumped into some chaps that have got a similar product to the juice booster, but the juice booster unfortunately is not smart. So there's a few regulations and certain fleets don't want to use it, but there is a new one that they've done, and I think we might have them on the channel soon. They've got something that is saying the juice booster, but it's actually a smart device as well. So good if companies don't want to pay for expensive wall boxes. So again, mate?
Smart in terms of kind of presetting times and so on.
Yeah, being able to gather information from the charging, basically. So yeah, it's a bit of a game changer on that. Commuter branch line, commando socket is slightly safer than 3-pin EVSE, but I wouldn't use it personally. Juice booster is very handy to have. Yeah, these things are very handy, especially if you're out and about or you're visiting sites where you know there's going to be these commando sockets, have a cheeky charge potentially. So I think we pretty much hammered AC charging at home. I think we've done that. So DC charging away from home.
One thing actually we did miss on AC charging at home, that
Yep.
potentially most homes do have the capability of running 2 AC chargers, even without 3-phase.
Oh, really? I'll need that.
If you've got an 80 amp, I only say that because I do have 2 home chargers. I mean, what you tend to have now, that they have what's called a fuse saver in them. So they look at the current your house is drawing, and if it draws over the main fuse thing, it tapers one of them down.
Right. Got it. Yeah, I definitely, because I've got 2, well, there's actually 4 electric cars outside my garage door at the moment. That's another story. But yeah, I'll definitely be needing another DC charger. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say this applies to other things as well, but one of the issues with AC is you do get charging losses with it, which are, so it's not straight kind of, you will put extra in it. Even if you say you have a 50 kilowatt battery, 50 kilowatt hour battery, you'll possibly find you get somewhere in the region of like 52, 53 kilowatt hours put into it. And that's because you lose some in terms of heat, and you also have other systems that are cooling the battery while it's charging that are kind of parasitic in terms of that load. So there's been, this is why you get, if you look at efficiency figures and range figures in brochures, they don't match up. So if you calculate the range versus you can get a rough idea of charging efficiency. The efficiency figure in the brochure is not including those losses. It is including those losses, but the one in the car isn't. So the ones that you see in the brochure includes, as I say, what you lose while you're charging. Now, it is different. So
I was going to say about public AC charging, but I know Fox, because he's very keen on the comments to talk about DC. Let's go to DC and we'll come back to public AC charging. So DC charging. Now, this is a minefield, real minefield. There's so many things from a cost point of view. In fact, we were supposed to focus on cost. We've actually done cost on AC and speed on AC. So yeah, we'll go back to AC charging publicly in a minute, but let's talk about costs for DC charging. So I'll come back to your comment in a second, Stephen. So DC charging, I mean, it can be anything from, goodness me, 30 kilowatts up to a megawatt now. I would say that probably covers most things, unless there's a charger, 50 kilowatt charger that has 2 plugs on it. It might be splitting it 25 kilowatt each, for example. But from a cost
the new MFG ones that they have in Morrison's have now 2 CCS on it, and it's 50 or 2 times 25 if it's got 2 cars on it.
There we go. So yeah, focusing on costs first of all. So I suppose because we've been driving electric cars for a long time, I think the cheapest DC cost I ever had was 19 pence per kilowatt, which was on a Tesla charger in France. Generally speaking, in UK, it's like late 20s up to 50p. And the most I've ever spent on a price per kilowatt hour is probably about £1. And that was from I forget the name of the charge point operator, or CPO, as you'll probably hear us say now. But that's the kind of price range that I'm looking at. Bear in mind, that could be, I mean, Kevin's car, 110 kilowatt hours. £1 per kilowatt hour from a DC charger. Not that you go from 0 up to 100 at a DC charger. That's not the right thing to do, because it would take a long time to do that last 10%, and you wouldn't want to drill down that far. That's 110 quid. That's not saving money going electric, is it, Kev?
That works out, and it's about 370 miles you can squeeze out of it. So that's what's that per mile?
It is obviously worth. Well, yeah, it's looking about 30p a mile if you're doing it at £1 a kilowatt and about 3 point something. So yeah, it's not brilliant. But the thing is, obviously with these sessions, and I'm guessing I'm chipping in here with something that we're all going to say on this, is that over the course of a journey, you're balancing that against that cost per mile against what you get at home. So you really want to kind of. You don't have to plan this in any particular detail, but you want to sort of unplug as soon as you can from a DC charger to get back to somewhere where you can charge on a cheaper unit if you can, rather than sit there and charge, for as long as possible. And you really want to kind of keep your use of DC to a minimum. And yeah, for the miles and the energy that you get out of that, it's bad. It's often more expensive than filling with fuel. The irony being that we're now starting to get plug-in hybrids with kind of higher speed DC charging, and it's just never going to be cost effective to use it that way unless you happen to have like really cheap access to something somewhere. But yeah, it obviously balances out over the cost of a journey. So say you do 200 miles, you do a 400-mile round trip, and the 200 miles with the home charging, and then you fill it up and you bring it back. You've got to balance somewhere between 6p and the 80 odd p that you'll pay per kilowatt hour on that trip. So
the best analogy I like to give is just imagine you're filling up a petrol car. I'm sure everyone's had one of those before at a motorway services, paying like £1.70 per litre. Everybody only puts as little as they can in, so just treat DC chargers like that and then charge back at home if you have got the benefit of having cheap charger at home or at work. So that's how I would personally do it, and it sounds like Alex would do the same. I better get through some of these comments, otherwise they're going to be stacking up. Stephen, so hi chaps, hello buddy, hope you're well. We haven't got COVID plus, we're all good. I've got an Anderson A2, great charge, but the app is so annoying, it keeps logging out, so you have to log in each time. Have you experienced this? Go on. Oh, you got an Anderson charger,
yeah, Kev? I got Quartz one, and it logs out about once every 30 days, which I think is a security measure rather than anything else. I've not had any issues. Like, I've just logged in to it as we were on the call when you talked about scheduling, because I'd switched the schedule off to try and fill the big battery car, and it reminded me to put the scheduling back on. So my chargers are set to only switch on at the cheap rate. But it seems to stay locked. It's about every 30 days I've noticed it'll kick me out. But I think that might be more a security issue than a security measure than anything else.
Oh, this is an interesting one from Timothy. So I have 100 amp incoming. Don't want to be rude, but BZ4X looking a bargain at the moment, or am I missing something? So that's the Toyota electric vehicle. Now, there's a reason why they're a bargain, in my opinion. It'd be interesting to see what Kevin and Alex thinks of this. The Subaru Solterra is the same car pretty much, but it comes only in four-wheel drive. But the only benefit, as far as I'm aware, which is a bit of a USP for both those vehicles, is it's got a really good ground clearance. So if you're often going down tracks or you're doing off-roading, then it probably is a really good car for that. However, I'm pretty sure that the efficiency, the charging speed, the range, and the technology, there's a lot better cars out there. However, it's down to your particular needs. Kev, have you got anything to add to that? Well, I have a look see what they are.
Well, I've driven the Solterra to the Subaru one. I mean, I think that's tweaked a little bit, so it's got Subaru handling. And okay,
I can tell you all of this because I did an interview with one of the engineers.
Yeah. It doesn't stand out from the crowd, but at the right price, it's a good electric car. The Toyota, it'll do 250 miles easily, without trying. So it's not. The thing is, no one makes a really bad car anymore. So basically, lots of people mistake a bad car for an average car. And there's nothing wrong with an average car. A lot of people aren't car people like us. And it'll be fine, because I know loads of people who bought. Remember, Honda did the ENY one or any one really cheap, and they sold them all because they were literally, So if the price point is right, there's nothing wrong with it.
Sorry, the reason I'm laughing is because me and my close schoolmates, it's like, if someone someone says something and no one replies, it's like, anyone? So I was just thinking in my head, like, does anybody want to buy one?
Anyone? It is, you call it the anyone. It is the anyone, isn't it? Technically.
Yeah, well, I always call it the MY one, but yeah, I mean, it's basically an electric, what's it called? HRV, which has never been the same since the first boxy ones that were available in like 99, 2000. But the three doors were really cool with a little spoiler on the back.
Yeah,
what, electric like that. Where's the Honda that Honda could put into an EV, and they come out with that.
I used to work for Honda at the same time and sold those FRVs, and they were great cars. But we did see a lot of people. They were quite wide, so we had a lot of people like pranging them. Basically,
the FRV was the people carrier one where they three seats across the front. I always remember my photographer mate, like going out on a photo shoot with him. We had a pool car one at the office, and he'd either sit right next to me and kind of put his hand on my leg, or sit on the other side. And he had to like phone me to talk to me all the time. He just made
those motoring journalists. Share it. So
parachute stays on max parachutes, or comes out of the podcast 15 years later, apparently.
So the Toyota's got 147 kilowatt DC charging. It's got 6.6 kilowatt onboard AC charger. Supposedly, according to EV database, which is a great resource if people want to know the real mileage, real range, and all these sort of stats, these sort of EV pervert stats that I love and the guys I'm sure love, gives you all this sort of stuff. So yeah, 215 real range. That's the all-wheel drive one. And it's 298 watts per mile, which is kind of 3 miles per kilowatt. So, I mean, it's probably going to be reliable and all these things, but it doesn't look like
it's the average kind of first proper fling into it, isn't it? That's the unfortunate thing with it. They do very good, very efficient hybrid systems, and then they come along with an EV that just doesn't feel like it's taking that and moving it into the EV space. But it's a competent car.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've only driven the Subaru Solterra, and it was nice to drive, but yeah, efficiency wasn't great when I drove it. Let's just hit through these comments. Let's go turbocharged here. Tesla supercharged in France are fantastic. Viva nuclear-powered electric generation. I think we'll probably need a bit of that soon with the amount of electric stuff coming online. E-Tripping, how you doing, mate? I was at Cobham Services today, paid 74 per kilowatt hour at Ionity. Stalls half empty. This is the thing, utilization. I'm sure the charge point operators need this. Ionity chargers are expensive. Ionity is the only charger where I've had to stay for 3 to 4 hours when I had an issue with the Skywell BE11, or Bell, as I like to call it. Kieran Reed, hey Kieran, for a daily driver, the home charging makes sense for costing. Then with my Model 3 long range, it's a case of using the map. If we go super far to charge, little amount needed. That is what swung me to it, absolutely. The grid serve units are 84 pence and full.
With the app.
Yeah, isn't that funny? The grid serve ones at Reading, where the Tesla ones opposite are usually about 2/3 of the price, and there's always like more people using the grid serve ones at 80 odd p a mile. I think it's interesting. That's the cost saving tip. Is obviously look at what the cost of everything else on site is.
And another cost-saving tip is to look at things like Electroverse. If you're an Octopus customer, you get a reasonable discount with Electroverse and sometimes plunge pricing and off-peak pricing with it.
And Bonnet as well, is the other one.
Bonnet's changed now. It's changed to another.
It's 10 or...
Yeah, they sold to another company, and we used it on an EV rally, and I can't remember what it's called now.
So Kieran has just put, maybe it's clever marketing. I'm guessing that's what you're talking about with GridServe. They do seem to market pretty well. Timothy, cheers for feedback, chaps. 21k, 24 plate with 20k on it, 16k by the time it's through the business for free. That's the Toyota electric car he was talking about. Yeah, I mean, if it makes sense, you don't have to charge too much away from home. I'm sure it would be a great car. And, you can't go wrong with Toyota quality, generally speaking. Tim of House Tesla, why not Toyota BZ4X for a month? Yeah. Well, you know me. What is 30% to 80% charging time about? See, these 30% to 80% charging times, I never really focus on it. I suppose they are important because that's the main kind of chunk, but I never really look at it. But it doesn't say that on EV database, Adam. So I'm sure there's on Toyota website. I'll probably say it. Yusuf Log, hi, hope you're all well. Yes, mate. Just wanted to know if it's worth moving to Octopus overnight tariff, considering we use main bulk of electricity during peak hours. Kevin, do you want to answer that?
So depends really, because the Octopus tariff can be quite handy if you've got other stuff. Because some stuff you can time, things like washing machines, dishwashers, you can also time shift those to that. The way it comes into its own is if you've got things like battery storage as well, because you can use that to time shift, because even with the round trip efficiency loss, and that's really geeky, the round trip efficiency loss, it's still cheaper to charge batteries in the winter off peak and then use them again than actually it is to buy the more expensive electricity at the moment. So even with the fact that you obviously battery storage has the same issues as cars, that you do lose some in the charging and discharging process. So it's worth doing it.
What does that mean? Bonnet is OVO charge anywhere.
Sorry, that was me being behind with that, but yes.
Okay. Ryan's Drone World. Ryan, I've got a drone. I've not played around with it yet. Be interesting to check you out. Hi, did any of you guys go to Everything Electric this weekend? And if so, what do you think? I didn't. I think Kev did. We're going to talk about it at the end of the podcast. So hold tight for that, Ryan. So yeah, but going back to charging. So we were talking about DC charging. We're talking about cost. I think we've pretty much hammered cost now. Be interesting to see. We haven't got crystal balls here, but it'd be interesting to see what prices will do. Whether the government will change the VAT, because there's 20% VAT, isn't there, on public charging. So it'd be interesting to see if they do anything around that. But yeah, talking about speed. Now there is so many things that affect DC charging speed. I'm just going to rattle them off and then we'll go into depth on all of these. But first of all, there's the car. So the max charging speed of the car. Then there is the chargers themselves. You know, what's the peak? Not only what it says on the chargers, because some of them just advertise the peak charging, which they can only do for a certain amount of time. Also sharing chargers. So let's say, for example, there are, I don't know, 10 DC chargers or even 2. If more than one person is on those chargers, that will decrease your amount of charging speed, because it might be halving or, basically reducing the charging speed. So it will charge all the vehicles with the amount of power. And then that then comes on to power. You know, how much power is available to that particular charging site. It might not be able to go full chat, as in maximize the top charging peak amount on every single charger, because the amount of power availability to the site, and also potentially power sharing with other things that are on the site, whether that's offices, whether that's any electrical consumption on that particular substation, for example. And last but not least, voltage, which I'm sure we'll get into. My knowledge isn't as good on voltage, so maybe Kevin and Alex can pick up the slack. But let's talk about the car. So, Kev?
So this is interesting, because obviously I've got the original Ioniq 5, which in theory can charge quite quickly. But that's with a caveat. Mine's the version before the battery heater. So if the battery's too cold, it won't charge at the higher speed. I mean, and that's the thing that a lot more cars are better at this now.
Hasn't got a battery heater on. I remember you saying this before. That's crazy.
Yeah, so the early 58s and the early cars, the battery heater was an option.
Wow.
And mine doesn't have the battery heater. So even though it's a mid-spec car, it doesn't have the battery heater. Whereas now, even the Hyundai Insta has a battery heater as standard. So obviously, mine will be really good. Good. You think, oh, it's going to charge really quickly. You plug it in the winter and it does 45. And then in the summer, it can do 200.
What's the max DC charging on the Ioniq 5 before I look it up on EV Database?
So mine's a smaller battery. I think mine will do 200, just about 200, if the battery's warm.
Yeah.
I mean, and the other issue with mine is 800 volt architecture, not 400 volt architecture, which generally means you can charge faster because heat is less of an issue. But that poses a problem when you don't have the battery heater. The battery doesn't naturally warm itself up during the process of charging to then charge faster.
It says 263 kilowatts DC max on the 84 kilowatt hour model year 24. I don't think that's the facelift. No, it's not the facelift.
And the 84 is
pretty strong.
Because you get a 77 kilowatt hour battery before the facelift.
Okay.
And that's the one with the battery heater as standard, and they up the charging speed. They're slightly slower on the older ones, and the 58 is slightly slower as well because it's got a smaller battery, so you don't really notice it. But
okay, so yeah, the charging speed of that one is 233. I thought that they were a lot better than that. I really, really did, because I was a little bit, green-eyed jealousy with my beat-up old Teslas, which can do 250 kilowatts max with the 400 volts. So that's interesting.
In the summer, it give your car a run for its money. In the winter, though, it can be quite poor.
It's worth remembering as well that it's a curve, and the curve varies enormously between cars. So some cars will have a maximum charging speed of, I don't know, say 150 kilowatts, but they'll hold that for like 10% between like 20% and 30% battery, and then it will like drop down to like 60 until you. So the charge, it's an incredibly complicated set of things to try and get into a brochure or a simple handover for the vehicle. But basically, if you want to reduce the amount of time you'll spend charging during a journey, run the battery as low as you can, generally speaking. and you'll get the best charging speeds. The closer you are to 80%, the more the fewer miles you'll get per minute plugged in, or
for the question asked earlier about 10 to 80, 20 to 80% on EV database, it does give, on the Tesla, I was interested to see it. It said charge power 10% to 80%, which is 163 kilowatts DC, and that's my 2019 Model 3. But the max is 250. I have actually seen 254 kilowatts. Now I'm not sure if that's because it went over a little bit, or the actual the reading isn't accurate. But that was literally me on a charger by myself with all these Tesla chargers, hence why the charging speed was really, really strong. So, like I said, like the car, there's electric cars out there, even quite new ones, that only have a DC charging speed of 80 kilowatts. So I'd personally just recommend, if you are going to be doing any long journeys and you're going to be charging away from home, you really, really need to think about that. You need to think about, okay, am I going to be able to afford a downtime of a half an hour to potentially an hour, depending on the size of the battery, of course. It's not just the charging speed, it's the size of the battery. This is why I'm saying it's so much more complicated than certain YouTubers would be like, oh, it's really, really slow. Well, not always, but it can be. So this is why we're trying to get through these lies, essentially. So
yeah, I mean, just an example, I went to Leicester yesterday in the Ioniq 9. So my aim was to do Leicester and back on a single charge. I didn't quite do it because disaster, because it's got such a big battery, it didn't charge fully on my AC charger. So I was only at 93%. So I topped up on a charger. So I did a 400-mile trip. And how long do you think I stopped on a rapid charger to do that 400-mile trip?
15 minutes.
8 minutes was enough. So the time it took me to run in, use the facilities, it had gone from...
Did you actually run? It sounds like you did run if it was only 8 minutes.
Well, I had to. It was because I was paying I didn't want it to fully charge at the price per kilowatt hour for obvious reasons, Tim. I wasn't going to sit and enjoy a burger at that price per kilowatt.
Reality isn't it? It's that always be charging thing where, instead of running the vehicle down, I know I've just said that you get faster charging speeds at the bottom of the range, but it's not. The idea with the charge with rapid charging is you don't necessarily need to run it all the way down and charge it all the way up. You can, the ranges are getting so long now that you can take a break, plug it in for 5 minutes, and get a meaningful part of what you've just, that leg of the journey back in the time that you're stopped. And that each time maybe you move a bit further down the rate. If you're doing a really, really long trip like across Europe or something, maybe you take 2 or 3 breaks in a several hundred miles of journey time, and you work your way down. You leave with slightly less each time you stop, but you never completely run out, and you never completely charge it up to 80% either. You just you charge while you're stopped rather than stopping to charge all the time.
It's a really good point, and sometimes I change where my stop's going to be if I think, because my maximum range is 130 miles before I need to go toilet. So if I know that actually it's coming up soon, I might look ahead to see if there is a charger, change on my sat nav because my car will go much further than that, and start heating the battery so it is a quick charge. So for the 10 minutes I'm there to grab a coffee, well, more like 15 minutes to grab a coffee, go toilet. I mean, that's potentially 60 miles, depending on all the variables that we have talked about and are going to continually talk about. So yeah, in terms of the speed, the car, there's cars out there, and use EV database as a really good resource for that. But anything from 50 kilowatt up to the MG IM5 that we spoke about the other day, which is 396.
It runs out. So I saw it peak on a charger at 333, but there isn't a charger in the UK that can peak that one yet.
But this idea of kind of top-up charging, I mean, this wasn't something that was really possible with early EVs. And the issue that I think people don't necessarily understand is that this kind of half-hour rapid charge session, the charging speeds and the batteries have increased at the same sort of, pace. So whereas you might have to be, you've still got a half-hour charging session from 10 to 80%, you're getting 80% back of like a range that's kind of 300-400 miles now, as opposed to like 80 miles. Like Kevin and I both did lots of trips in early Zoes. With the Zoe, you had to stop to charge every 50-60 motorway miles.
5 minutes.
Yeah, otherwise you were getting quite low. You did have to plan it around it, and actually to a point, the Rifter, there is a bit of that as well. We don't tend to go any distance in the Rifter unless we've got the kids with us. The kids tend to want to stop around the time the car wants to stop, and the battery's only 45 kilowatt hours anyway. So usually by the time the kids have eaten and got back in the car and everything, it's usually up around the kind of 85-90% anyway after that time. So
I was actually wrong. It's 369 kilowatts, the max for the MGI M5. What did you say the max was that you got, Kev?
333.
Okay, yeah.
But there is the fastest charger in the UK currently that's online that I've found is 360. So yeah.
I mean, this is the thing, and this is where actually quite nicely we've talked about sharing, we've talked about the car, talk about the power. There might be some, like you said, 360 kilowatt chargers there, but how long can they sustain that for? And if someone else plugs in, we talked about shared charging earlier, that's just going to reduce the power right down. So sorry, go on, mate.
I mean, that's interesting because I tested that with the IM. So we found one site which was perfect, but I stopped at another 2 sites which had the same chargers, which are capable of up to 360. And this is the important thing, why they say up to, but the site's power wasn't enough. So the site, they topped out about 120. And knowing, because I'd driven the car and knew that it was capable of that, it's like, well, I know it's not the car now in the conditions because the battery and everything was the same temperature. It's the supply at the site.
You used to have this back in the early days of going up and down the M4. I always used to find Lee Delamere services never had a good enough. Now Lee Delamere is fine. It's got a massive bank of Tesla and a massive bank of GridServe chargers there. But the original Ecotricity charger there was always slower than the ones at Reading or the ones at Membry. So I used to, on the way back from the office, whenever I stopped off there in the Zoe, I always knew that I was going to have to spend longer there than I was at other ones, even though they were identical chargers to the ones at Reading. The ones at Reading were always really robust performance-wise.
I mean, the one thing...
Sorry, mate, you go.
With the one thing with the 50 kilowatt charger, which made it slightly easier when they were slower, is a 50 kilowatt charger is basically a standard 69 kVA 3-phase supply using all of it. So that was fairly simple. You just ordered a 3-phase supply and that was it. But now with these multi-100 kilowatt hour chargers, the supplies are expensive to get in. I mean, and that, folks, that's what is contributing to the cost is the fact that you think that you're powering, if you've got them all used in a big motorway services, you're powering a small city.
No, definitely. And there's a particular Tesla charger which is up north, which I don't like stopping at. It's, I want to say Northgate or something like that. It's pretty far north. It's next to this hotel. And I just know, not only is it quite expensive there, because there's not many Tesla chargers around, so they put up the price a little bit. Plus, the fastest I've ever got is like 150. Even then, there's not actually that many chargers there. But generally speaking, Tesla chargers are a lot cheaper and the power is generally quite good. And you will hear stories of certain chargers being powered with, the grid itself, in some cases battery storage, but also you hear of charge point operators using generators, and I'm talking about the smelly kind, to power some of these chargers until they get the power. Because and I'm sure we'll talk about it on another podcast, but power is quite a difficult subject and a challenging subject when it comes to electric chargers. Not necessarily that there's not enough generation, but it's just actually getting the power to certain places. But there has been so much positive work that's been done already, as a lot of people will know, having some of the EV drivers on here today, by the amount of EV chargers out there on motorway services. I mean, even like the old GridServe ones, you see brand new ones just down the road and no one's using the old ones anymore. So it's just great to see the positive work that's going on. I'm going to jump into the comments. There's quite a few, and then we better speed it up a little bit because just thinking about time. So we've got, we're going to talk about everything electric. Yeah, Timothy Shanks, just worth a note on my Model 3 performance on a 19 plate, manages about 150 miles, 10 to 80% in winter. But even traveling as I do It's not an issue. I need a break after 150 miles anyway. Tesla network never failed me so far. What's your battery degradation like, Timothy? Be really interested to know. My Kona, Lewis has just mentioned my Kona has a battery heater, but will only turn on when plugged in with no option to preheat, despite it just being software. They haven't updated it to do so. That's annoying.
So all the new Hyundai stuff, you can actually activate it manually in the software, or if you do a route, it works out which charger which charger you need to stop at, and it will preheat in advance. And Tim is going to tell me Tesla has done that for years, I know, but the other manufacturers have caught up.
So it's interesting. Adam's just mentioned he loves the Kempower units. It load shares and the stalls, and I find they charge quicker than most. I used to sell Kempower chargers, and they have very clever, although it's quite old technology, but they have very clever way that they distribute the power. They've got like power cabinets rather than the big massive DC chargers. They've got power cabinets separately, and then these satellites, as they call them, which are on a A4 size footprint. So they're really easy to use. But they always tend to be quite expensive, although BEV use them, and I want to say Offspray, I think them as well. But yeah, great chargers, the Kempower one.
Sainsbury's Smart Charge use them as well, no?
Say again, sorry?
Sainsbury's Smart Charge use them as well.
Yes, indeed. You're absolutely right.
They're very good for accessibility because they're much easier and easier to handle than the big DC units.
And cable management, so they've got these big springs on them as well, so it's easier to hold the cable if it's the thicker the cables, because generally speaking they will be thicker cables if they're more powerful, unless it's 800 volt where they can get away with less, but that's another story. Gets probably quite complicated, although I know some people wouldn't understand what I'm talking about. The Welsh taxi driver from YouTube channel Rideshare Buddy UK drives an early Hyundai Ioniq 5. He's had issues winter charging due to no battery heater. He's no access home charging either. Oh, poor chap. Lewis Standing, I think you mean Fuse charger Blackpool. I guess it's not Dews. Fuse charger Blackpool on Preston New Road is labelled as a 480 kilowatts. Don't know if that's true though.
I'm Dews. I just think of PD diesel engines when I see the word Dews.
I wonder what make charger that is, because I've not seen an ABB one that's over the 360. Be interested to know what manufacturer makes the 480 charger.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Project EV ones at BP when they actually commission them, which means turn them on. They're supposed to be 360. We'll do some fast charging there until we realise it's like £1 per kilowatt hour. Adams put, I love that IM has a mixture of performance, luxury, and should be a bargain second hand. The carpets are like, honestly, it's like shag pile. It's lovely. It's one thing that I took note from the. I don't know if that was the same as yours, Kevin. The carpet.
That terrifies me. The amount of crap that shag pile carpets can absorb.
You won't
bring us down to earth here.
White interior in a car ever either.
Oh, Trevor. He's got a BMW Z4. Which one is it? Is it the SI or the M Sport? He fills up once a week with petrol. My question is, I'm definitely getting an EV. It okay to charge once a week, as I don't do any more than 50 miles a week. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would always recommend to keep it between sort of ideally 40 and 70%, or 20 and 80%. Helps the life of the battery. Or as Kevin does, if you've got a lease, doesn't matter, just keep it 100% all the time. Sorry, Kevin.
It is 100% now, but I just drive it. I mean, I find I just drive it, so I'll charge it and then drive it for a week until I need to charge it again.
Yeah. Oh, he's got an SI. That's the gentleman's choice. My mate had a coupe, one of them, because it's a lot better on tax and efficiency. Great cars, actually. Funky looking at the front, but yeah, I do like those. Where do we get to? So we talked about DC, we talked about the car, the chargers, sharing, power, voltage I've touched on. So certain chargers will only do up to 400 volts, whereas some other chargers will go up to 800 and sometimes 1,000 volts. And what that actually means is, generally speaking, the cables will be thinner, and because the voltage will be higher instead of the goodness,
lower amps is less heat, basically.
That's it. So I wouldn't necessarily get won over by high voltage, because not every charger can cope with it.
There is a flaw with that, because obviously a lot of the Tesla chargers which are open are still 400 volts.
Mm-hmm.
And my car and some of the others, like I had an EV9, if you're using 400 volts, they are then limited by the car's onboard DC to DC converter. So what might charge at 200 or 250 kilowatts might be limited to, say, 85 or 100 if it's on a 400 volt charger, because its onboard DC to DC converter can't do much more because they don't want to make that circuit too heavy.
Yeah. Well, I think, you're absolutely right. I mean, and this goes back to what I was saying before. There's so many intricacies between, charger speed, heat the battery, the vehicles, the power, so many, and people just don't go into it in enough detail. And anyone that has liked this podcast so far, please don't forget to share it, comment, because I think a lot of people really need to know the kind of the truth and the detail, so people can be aware and make the right decisions in terms of not only purchasing the right vehicle, but also charging at the right place at the right time at the right cost and all those other things. Now, I did write down wireless charging, but I think we should have a separate podcast on that, because I'm thinking about time, and also charging for vans and trucks, which I'm sure we'll get into. Be interested to see if anyone runs a van or a truck. Probably not HGV, but you never know, on the comments at the moment. So whack a comment in if that is you. Let's, as soon as we've got a bit of time left, let's talk about everything electric, Kev. Oh no, actually, before you do that, going back to last week when we did a video about the Tesla Model 3 new shape against the IM5 MG, and we got to a score. We got to a score. But I just want to add into the mix, because I've actually seen MG IM5 now, that it's not more practical than a Tesla Model 3. So, in fact, it was levels pegging 7 each. And if you want to see that video, go back and watch it. It's done like 550 views, so pretty good for us on the podcast point of view. So the Tesla did win. Just wanted to say that. Although the MG is a lovely car. It is a lovely, lovely car. It's a lot bigger than the Model 3, actually. It's kind of between Model 3 and S, isn't it, really, lengthwise?
I don't know. I've never should have parked it next to the Model 3 that I had at the same time.
There we go. It's a nice car, though. Nice car. So, everything electric, Kev. What did you see this weekend?
I went to the B2B day, so they hadn't finished building it when I was there. So it was all the outside area with lots of test drives. The interesting thing I noticed that they did have quite a few plug-in hybrids back at everything electric, because they had the Cherry brand stuff, the Tiggo 8 and Tiggo 7, which are plug-in hybrids. So it's interesting that even
what was I looking at? Sorry, I'm going to have to go and dig out a conversation. The government started classing plug-in hybrids as EVs again now as well. Something came up.
They'll be having steam engines at everything electric soon. They've gone back on their hardline attitude of EV or die, haven't they?
The EV driver tracker report from the government classifies plug-in hybrids as EVs.
I suppose they do have more range now, so I suppose
I just think you're blurring the lines. But you get into it ends up shuffling cars around into different categories and things, and plug-in hybrid drivers need very different infrastructure to EV drivers, like very, very different. Especially now they're getting longer ranges, and the public charging costs are still high. I think to try and lump them together and try and draw any conclusions across those two groups is pretty futile, really.
No, absolutely. So I suppose the summary there is Kevin didn't actually go to the proper show. He went to the B2B show, and he just saw lots of hybrids. Was there anything else to add, Kev?
Shock and horror.
No, there was. I mean, there was a lot.
It's got an exhaust.
It was interesting that on the Octopus electric vehicle stand test drive thing, they had so many EVs now. There's so much choice. You can have whatever size, shape, or type of car you want. I saw the if you want a big 7-seater, you've got the Ioniq 9. If you want a little city car, you've got Renault 5, Hyundai Insta, and there's a lot of stuff about there now. So it shows how much choice there is. Yeah, and
there's so many electric cars. I mean, I was at the Fleet Mobility show, and I put a few videos out there. Not only did I see the BMW i3 battery swap in, which I did a short video of today, but also the Geely has entered the market with an electric SUV. It's quite an interesting bit of kit. It does look pretty kind of SUV like, and nothing very staggering about it. Quite a nice rounded shape. Interior is really nice. Charging speed's 160 kilowatts, and the range is fairly decent. So yeah, there's some interesting electric cars there for sure, including Felton with a classic Mini and their Charge Qube. Give them a shout out to them. So yeah, some interesting electric bits there. Guys, I think maybe we talk about what we're doing this week. Kev, do you want to start us off?
So this week I'm going from the biggest Hyundai in the range to the smallest, because tomorrow they're swapping the Ioniq 9 for the Insta-Cross.
No, they'll just phone you and say it's in the glove box.
All right. So I'm hoping that when they come to deliver it, I'll get one opportunity to take a photo of them side by side.
Nice.
I just one of the new cars where if you've got what 3 words for the drivers to pick it up, the driver and passenger seat will be in different what 3 words areas.
Trevor, I'll come to your comment in a second, buddy. Alex, what you up to? And does it involve squirrels?
It does involve squirrels. I'm really sorry. Yeah, there's nothing I can really talk about this week, but yeah, usual stuff. EV related, but all secret EV related stuff.
Good stuff. So I haven't actually got a video coming out this week because after my missus started playing Where Is My Husband, every chance he saw me, I thought it's probably about time that I spent some good family time rather than doing lots of YouTube stuff. But I'm doing a few short videos out there. But the next video I've got coming out soon is going to be, I've got another Tesla Model 3, which I'm going to be doing a buyer's guide on Tesla Model 3 going from 2019, 2022, and what to look out for and all those wonderful things. And yeah, obviously working hard as usual with Dynamon, where we do planning for electric transition for fleets of vans and trucks using their data. Jumping into the comments though, so Trevor, you've asked, he's got a choice of EVs at the moment. In time is the Tesla Model 3, BMW iX, Mercedes EQC. What would guys go for? I'll start. Tesla, BMW. Don't consider the Mercedes. Kev?
See, I think I'd probably go Mercedes Model 3. I don't like the iX.
The iX, if we're talking about the full-size iX, not an iX3, because the iX in that context feels quite a lot pricier than the other one. Is
it an iX3, Trevor, or is it because the new iX3 is really nice inside? Very nice.
If it's the iX, it's ugly as anything.
Do you know what? The iX, right? So I don't like the iX, but as a vehicle, as a piece of engineering, it's a phenomenal car. It drives better than it should, and it's a zeitgeist kind of car. I don't like it, and I wouldn't want to own one. But when I drove it, I couldn't help but be impressed by it. And the facelifted version is very, very good as well. It's one of those ones that falls into that strange grey area where as a motoring journalist and a car reviewer, I admire it. But as a person, I think it's hideous and oversized, and it's a very good product, but it's not my thing. Sorry, so I think that probably puts that in that context. I think that's selling the benefits out of those 3 vehicles.
The reason I don't like the Mercedes is I just don't think the technology is quite there and reliability is not that great. Tesla is bringing back the indicator stalks, which upsets people, but you can get the stalks as an addition. But the BMW, you can't really beat the BMWs for German electric vehicles, but they are pretty expensive. So you probably have to put quite a lot of extras on it to make it worth your while. So my next door neighbor has got an i5 and he can't wait to get rid of it. It's a 75 grand car and it doesn't have adaptive cruise control.
Wow.
See, I really like the i5. I love the i4.
I love the i4 too.
But it was a press car, so all the optional subscription services were enabled. So it's hard to judge.
And Tesla's come with everything, of course, apart from indicator stalks. So no more. Although they're coming back. Commuter branch lines put, he's looking into Felton Charge Qube. Oh, that's good to hear. I've got lots of detail on that, mate. I love the Insta 200 miles at 70 miles an hour. It's pretty strong, isn't it? Secret squirrels, always secret squirrels, isn't he? Might as well wear a squirrel costume. Cheers, lads. Great pod. Nice one, mate. Model 3 or Model 3?
That's
That's exactly what I was thinking, to be honest. Tesla base Model Y 40k in states is worth 30k because Elon needs his 1 trillion bonus, so you must pay 10k extra. Bolt the Nissan Leaf on point for 2027. I saw the Nissan Leaf actually at the Fleet and Mobility, but I didn't actually sit inside it. But I hope it does well. But I'd be interested to see what the stats are because I've not really looked into it.
Actually, one car that I did see it, everything electric, which is coming back to the UK. The Cadillac brand is coming back to the UK with the Cadillac Lyric.
Well, I drove the Cadillac in Italy last year, mate, and yeah, it was quite good. Had an interesting noise to it. Now, hang on, Williams tarnishing Teslas here, as well as the person before. No, he's doing it again, actually. Thanks, William. It's balanced here. We always, take on board pros and cons. Tesla are overpriced, an old battery NMC, and are worth nothing because Tesla Model Y batteries die early. Where's your data? I need your data to back that up, William, just to confirm. Tesla Model 3 LFP is good. Yeah, I probably don't argue with that. What's that, Kev?
You've got 2 NMC cars and yours have done massive mileage.
Well, Gemma's car's done nearly 227,000 miles and the battery's about 70. Well, it was 71% when we tested it. It's probably about 70 now. And Rusty's 134,000 miles at 81%. I did a battery. It's a bit of an insider for everyone here. The Tesla Model 3 that I've borrowed is a 71 plate Tesla Model 3 long range. It's done 106,000 miles. I did a Tesla battery test on, which tends to be worse than the normal just plug in. So this was like full charge up into the battery, which tends to be a better test. Still had 92% of its battery according to the Tesla test. That's pretty impressive as far as I'm concerned. William, if you don't want to buy a Tesla, that's fine. No, he just wants an LFP one. Come on, let's be nice in the chat. Being a Tesla driver ruins you for driving any other car. I don't disagree. Leaf is a Megane. Don't know what that is. Oh, Megane, right? Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is. Model Y, there are tons of videos with 100k on them. I'll go and check them out, William. Whack a link on the comments. Be interested to take a look. I think that's it, chaps, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's about it. But yeah, just once again, if you haven't liked and subscribed, make sure you do. It's on Spotify after the event in a couple of hours when I download it. It's live on X as well. So like I said before, please share, like, subscribe, all those wonderful things. Thanks everyone for chipping in. I really hope you've enjoyed this particular podcast. I hope it's been informative. Chaps, anything else to say?
Nothing more. Have a good week, and thanks for joining us as always.
Yeah, thanks for
Absolutely.
joining.
Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time. And if anyone's got theme tune